This is the garden of Dishes with Del HQ. We are going to try and transform it. You know me, I'm usually inside there. But today we're out here because we want to grow some veggies in this time when we don't know what's going on with the world. So come with me as I transform this space with the help of my wonderful boyfriend, and we are going to create food together. Over the course of the next 12 months, I want to see how much food we can grow in the garden. Does it save me money at the supermarket? And can we do it on a budget? So first of all, I suppose we better try and find some supplies. So over the last few weeks, we've searched high and low across Marketplace and our local Facebook group to see if we can find some wood. And here's everything we got for free. Heat treated panels, some fencing wood, and some other planks. And hopefully with all this stuff, we're going to make some veggie beds, cold frames, and who knows, some other things in between. But first, it's the hard work, and we've got to get these pallets apart so that we can make the raised beds. So let's get on with ripping these pallets up. Okay, we're around the back of the house. It's officially time to take the pallets apart. Now, as you may see, dotted around here, big fan of the pallet for building. It's an excellent, excellent building material that you can always get for free. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the other projects that we have used pallets for before we get into these bad boys. So we use them to stack our wood to keep it off the floor over here. Really great. Our entire wood store here made from pallets, as you can see, all sorts. Even the top is some reclaimed corrugated stuff that we got from the recycling centre, so always keen for that. And our other wood store here is the OG pallet wood store. Again, the top of it made from corrugated iron that we got from the recycling centre. So these ones, as you can see, they are heat treated. There's a little wheat sheaf and an HT, which is what you're looking for when you're building pallet garden raised beds, because you don't want any of the chemicals leaking in. So there you go, the little wheat sheaf, heat treated, and this is perfect for that job. And here are my two pieces of equipment, a crowbar and a mallet. Now, as I said, this is the hard bit. We're going to take them apart, but we're going to try and reuse as much of these bits and the bobs to make our beds. Probably going to get a sweat on, but it's time to get these pallets apart, and yeah, we'll see you on the other side.
So firstly, you want to start by taking all the slats off of the pallet, and I actually changed to a hammer here instead of the mallet because I could just get a bit more pressure on the crowbar. It was a little bit easier. As you can see, I broke the first slat taking them off, but that's just how it goes sometimes. You just got to break that off to be able to get in first of all, but then easy as.
Okay, we're about an hour and a half in. We've basically done 2 pallets. There's a little bit, one over there. That was the first one. You know, it's kind of like when you're making crepes in the kitchen. The first one that you put in the pan, always just the worst. And then they get better and better. So we're halfway there. I'm going to crack on with these other 2. I've managed to smack myself in the shin with a hammer already once. So I'll have in fact, I've already got a nice whopping bruise there. So let's see if I can get the other 2 done. And then that is all the wood ready to go. And we can make these into boxes. Here, this is a pile of bits that broke, so you know, it takes a bit of practice. You probably will break some, which is why I got 4 pallets in the hoping that I'll end up with enough wood for what we need. But yeah, I'm gonna crack on with this other bit and then we're good to go.
A few moments later.
Okay, I think I've got nearly all the wood, but what I need is a few more blocks. So I think this one I'm gonna sacrifice because these have got good blocks, but we're gonna use the saw. So I'm gonna cut through the wood and hopefully we'll get the blocks off much easier. And these we could use to stick some of these together, so it's not all for waste.
And the reason that I need the blocks from the pallet is because when we build the container, these blocks will sit in the corners, I'll screw them in and they will keep it all secure and together.
Done. Okay, now I'm just going to get this all organised and we'll see what we've got and if we've got enough. Remember, always wear your safety glasses. So I've got my piles of wood, this one and this one, and you can see why I wanted 4 pallets, because this is all the stuff that's broken. It's probably about a pallet's worth, you know, and that is the last 2 pallets that were left. So now I'm just gonna put it all back together.
So here we go, let's get these things back together. What I'm going to do now is from our piles of sorted wood is make the panels that will make the four sides of the container. So the pallets were slightly different thicknesses. So what I've done is I've actually used the thicker piece on the bottom and then two thinner pieces on the top, the thicker one being closer to the ground. And then we're going to use them pieces that we cut from the pallet when we were getting out the blocks, and they're going to be our structural support on the back. I'm just drilling them in. I'm just using some screws that I found. I pre-drilled the hole because lucky enough I've got two drills because my boyfriend's amazing and has two drills. But pre-drill that hole and then screw in with a screw to secure. And you'll notice here that when I'm screwing them in, the drill bit gets stuck in there. This is because I was just using what I had. You know, that's what this whole project's about, using what you have available to you, because, you know, we don't always have all the things we need. So, yeah, I'm just going with it. But be careful of the, the nails sticking out. I nearly get myself at one point, and later on I actually did get myself. But what we'll do with them as well is we'll just use a hammer to knock them down. You can, when you're taking the pallets apart, pull out the nails and perhaps reuse them if they're good enough, but it can also have a tendency to mean that you're more likely to split the piece of wood when you're trying to get the pallets off. So right now it's just much easier to smack them down with a hammer so that you don't hurt your hands when we later on plant in there. Again, there's probably going to be some people that are like, hey Del, that's not the right way to do it, but that's how we're doing it. And just gonna pop them down. And the very last thing that we need to do before we put these all back together into squares is to tidy up the ends. As you can see, throughout this whole process, I have not used a measure or a tape measure or a ruler or anything. I am just going by eye. But obviously, the planks of wood from the pallets are all the same length, so you are going to roughly end up with the right size. But here you can see with the saw, I'm just cutting off them bits that were sticking out. You know, maybe you go talk to your neighbours and you can borrow a saw or a handsaw off of them so that you can do this part. Of course, it makes it easier if you've got a battery saw, but you know, old-fashioned analog also absolutely fine. But that is all of these pieces ready to go, so now all we need to do is get the blocks screwed in to the side.
So it's officially taken me all day to get to this point, but I've hammered on two sides of the blocks. I've cut all the edges, so now everything is square and in place. Also, if you can't see me, I'm just here. It's really windy out, so I thought I'd do this bit inside. This is the first part of the project. By the end of the day, there's going to be two small boxes ready to go for the first part of the project, which is exciting. And you know, yes, it's taken me all day. Yes, the cost is on my time, but otherwise this is all essentially free. So yeah, you know, let's get on with this last little bit.
So here I go, the two blocks, so it's 8 in each container, screwed in and fastened everything together.
There's Ox, the neighbourhood cat. Here they are, all done. But what I have been told is you've got to make sure that you can get a wheelbarrow alongside so that they're easy access, and also that you can get them through the middle. And there we go. So the day is done. They're not exactly the prettiest, but it doesn't matter. I've made some raised beds for nothing from pallets that we found. Here's the neighbourhood cat. Oh, you shouldn't want a hug. Okay. And you know, these we got for free off of Marketplace, and we're going to be able to fill them up and grow veggies here, and then hopefully a greenhouse scenario during the springtime. But for now, at least we've got something. And then on the next episode, we're going to fill them up and get some soil in them so that they can start to settle, and maybe we can even start growing some stuff this winter. That is how you make raised beds from pallets. I'll give you a quick look. Like I said, they're pretty ugly, but it doesn't matter. Not the prettiest. Don't look at them too carefully, but a really good solution if you're doing this on a budget. This one in particular, he's a bit shoddy, but you know, whatever. I still think I've done a pretty good job. And there's the two existing beds, here and here, and we're going to start working this garden out a little bit. I've got a plaster here on my knee, a bruise on my shin, and yeah, now I'm ready for some lunch. This is the beginning of the kitchen garden here at Dishes with Del.